Megan and Ash do youth services, and so everything from registering children to talking to you on the phone about crises. We have an after-school program that serves about 160 kids in the New Beginnings program. And then we also do work with high schoolers and young adults with college and career readiness. It's called Rise Up, and then we do Super Saturdays. So one Saturday a month we visit a different college or university around the state, and then we do college and career readiness with that. And that's getting ready to gear up in the next few weeks. So I invited Patrick to come today, and Patrick is incredible. He is the case manager for our Refugees of the World program. So at KRM we serve a lot of different refugee populations, and then we also serve Cubans and Haitians. And so our Cuban-Haitian office is kind of separate from our Refugees of the World program. Patrick is from the Congo, but I will not take away any of his steam. He'll share a lot with you, but Patrick does incredible work. So a lot of times when you are calling us about your Congolese clients that you're working with, your Congolese students, we automatically say, Patrick, can you please help? And not only does he do incredible work, he's also an incredible cultural liaison for us, and then also for so many organizations that we work with, among being a father and working on his doctorate and just so many things that he's doing. And but anyways, I will let Patrick share with you. But please, and I know he'd say the same, please feel free to just ask questions as we go along.
Well, Ian, thank you, Eli. Thank you, everybody. Maybe I should stand up here. Okay, I'll talk just a little bit about the Congolese populations. I came in 2003, this is 14 years ago, as a Kentucky Refugee Ministry client. And the work that you guys are doing is amazing. And I got here, I didn't have enough English, but now there are so many things that I can do. So you can just see what kind of work the kids that you are working with can do one day. So we'll have a conversation about the Congolese populations. For you to have a background of the kind of student you're working with and the kind of family they may be coming from. And as you know, DRC, the Congo, has been in a conflict for over 20 years. So you are receiving kids who are coming from families that are really traumatized. They've had a lot of conflict, and they have a lot of adjustment issues in their houses. So this is just a picture of Eastern Congo. Many of our clients are coming from the Congo, are coming from Eastern Congo. This is where the bulk of the conflict happened and continue to happen. Schools were deteriorating, families were collapsing as people continue to fight. Now, in this region, there are a lot of geopolitical issues going on with Rwanda, Uganda, and Burundi. And there are also some kind of demographic concern over historical conflict, over land, and so many other things. This is why conflict has continued to go on and on and on, because there are internal problems and there are border region problems. Now, so since 1998, there has been multiple armed conflict in DRC, over 2.9 million IDPs. These are internally displaced people. And over 499,000 refugees. So these are just numbers for 2014. So this is what happens in those kind of contexts when there is war, people will flee, which means that the family is either dislocated or collapsed. And the livelihood has also changed because you have to leave your farm. In this region, most people are farmers, most people are fishermen. So if you force me out of my livelihood context, I don't know how to make a living anymore. I find myself in a refugee camp. And then when I'm in a refugee camp, this is what happened to me. I either have assistance from an organization that helped me, basically feeding me and my family. And then if I have any extra money, what do you think I'm going to do? If I'm frustrated, I will probably use alcohol. So those are the kind of situations that happen when they flee. They get themselves in a refugee camp where there is nothing to do. Babies are born because there is nothing else to do. So as they flee the Congo, they go mainly in Uganda, Tanzania, Rwanda, and Burundi. They mainly speak Kiswahili or Kinyarwanda. So if you don't know the geography of the Great Lake region, no, the Michigan area, but the African Great Lake region, and somebody tells you I'm from Eastern Congo, you will be well to assume that they speak either Swahili or they speak Kinyarwanda. Now, sometimes they'll tell you they speak Kinyabwisha, or they say I speak Kinyamulenge. Those are just variation of the language, of the same language, which is Kinyarwanda. So we have Kinyarwanda, Kiswahili, Kirundi, and Kiganda. Because the Kiganda party, when you go as a refugee in Uganda, you may have to learn Kiganda. Some of the kids that you have here, they were born in Uganda. They may speak a language from Uganda. So there is also an issue of trust between the Congolese. Do not assume that because I'm having two Congolese family here, they are necessarily friends. It's not the case. Because of those internal conflict in DRC, land issue, ethnic tension, they are not necessarily friends. Not necessarily. People speak in Rwanda, at one time they might mistrust other people who speak other different languages. That's why whenever you are in doubt, just call. You can call us and then see what we can tell you to give you a background of that.
Just say one thing really quick. I know that a lot of the schools with some of the younger Congolese boys, they've been fighting with each other, and this is part of the reason for that. Is, one family might be from one ethnic group and one family might be from another. They might even live in the same neighborhood, and so there's conflict there in the neighborhood as well.
Yeah. Even for ourselves, when we are thinking about housing, especially single, the best option is to have them in a roommate kind of situation. We have to determine, okay, can these be paired? Are they from the same region? Is there any historical conflict here where we can just prevent, instead of putting two, a Kinyarwanda speaker and a Mubembe speaker in the same kind of room, should we just find another arrangement? We have had some hiccups a long time ago where two people couldn't just get along. But at the beginning, they won't tell you that. So, and there is also a possibility of rejection from other Congolese because of all that. Point twice. Now, Eli has it. If you want to have the statistic, you can keep it. These are just a few statistics about the population that we work with. You should keep that in your mind that it's mainly going to be a large family. It's mainly going to be mainly a single mother, heading the house with kids, which means that there may not be a lot of support for homework at home. Because mom has to work or dad has to work, or there are like 6, 7 kids in the house. That's why at KRM we'll try to provide them with mentors that will go at home, try to see if they can help them with those homeworks. And another thing that we are seeing now, it used to be that young people would be educated in time of peace. But now in times of war, because we've been in the war for over 20 years, some young folks are coming here, they are illiterate. So some of the population that your students come from a family where mom doesn't know how to write her name, that the only way for him to sign is a shaky cross or an X, because dad doesn't know how to spell his own name. So that's why we have to try to figure out how to provide them extra support because of that. And the female population is higher, 51%. Male population is 49%. But even though in those kind of contexts it's so diverse, because some come with some kind of experience, professional experience, language ability. I came to the U.S., I already spoke Kiswahili, French, a little bit of English, and Lingala. So they have that to offer, and this is what we try to work with. What is the ability and what are the qualities that they have that we can help them jump into the work market and then begin to just try. I mean, it's tough. This is what I usually say. Our clients learn to find jobs before they can navigate the city. Yeah, that's how it is. Within 3 months' time, we have to do our best to have them find a job so that they can pay their bills and all that. And that is also something that's bring a lot of frustration in the house, where, the family was like a unit living sometime in a one room in a refugee camp for all the time. Now everybody has to be in their own, at school, at work, or trying to find employment. So it could also bring some kind of frustration there.
So what about,
Yes, go ahead.
So what about the single moms?
Yeah.
There were, and you have 8, 9 kids, they're finding work right away too? That sounds...
Not right away.
Okay.
No.
I was like,
we actually have someone on staff, Morgan Floyd, and part of her role is called Women to Work, and so she works with mainly single moms who've been here over 8 months, because it takes them that long to get through all of their kids' medical appointments, to get everybody in school, to get established. So most of those women, it's just really difficult for them to go to work. But then also, for many of them, some of them are just superstars. I mean, they are like doing their best to make sure that the laundry's done, that everybody's eating, that everyone's taken care of, because many times they'll have just really small kids, kind of stair steps. But then there's others that just really have trouble managing all that, because Patrick will talk about this because of post-traumatic stress, and so.
I was just thinking, like, how do you
just
pay
takes a
for
long
childcare or
time.
even make that work?
We were talking about that while coming over, just like the cost of daycare and.
Yeah. I mean, they do it. We have a family of, it was a family of 8 with a daughter, young adult who was also pregnant. So now both, she only gave birth. She's working and mom is working. The kids are in school, and I think 3 siblings are in a daycare. So yeah, that's what we have to try to do, because there's no kind of assistance that is everlasting in the circumstance. We have to try our best to see what they can do on their own.
And sometimes the daycare subsidies, like if the mom is making just even, like some of our moms are making just right over that limit for them to get 3 Cs, which is really heartbreaking.
Yeah.
So
that is the kind of group that you are working with. When they go home, mom is maybe frustrated. We have one who leaves home at around 4:30, and she comes back around 7. And then it's
4:30 a.m., right?
4, yeah. And then that is the person who takes care of the siblings is a 20-year-old daughter who has her own daughter. Yeah, so it's complicated. A lot of health challenges too. Yeah, this is a place called Heal Africa. It's an NGO-run medical facility in Eastern Congo. There have been a lot of, you probably know that there's the Congo, Eastern Congo is called at one point the capital rape of the world, where the rebels and the military were raping women just, as they pleased. And there is a lot of medical issue going on over there. Just imagine a refugee camp that is not well run, water is not well provided, a lot of communicable diseases traveling around, and that is the context. So sometime when they get here, they have post-traumatic stress disorder. They may have other situation going on. But it's okay, because before they leave, they are treated. Or there's a diagnosis that is done, and then we have a bio. We already know that somebody who's coming here has this situation, this condition. However, there are some conditions that it's hard to pinpoint. Sometimes mental conditions, you don't pick it up yet. Sometimes the kids they were not acting out, they begin to act out because dad and mom are having difficulty adjusting here, and now these kids is acting out. Yeah, you've seen that with violence, maybe hoarding foods, or not doing their homework, or at sometimes refusing to go home. We have had cases where kids refuse to go home. And then, so, any questions so far?
Can I share something else too? I mean, and with many of these families, like the refugee camps they were in were so chaotic and so unstructured, so then getting here and then learning like a bedtime routine and like dinner's gonna be at 6, like a lot of things that we think about as being kind of maybe parenting 101, like that can be really challenging for families. And so a lot of kids fall asleep at school because their older siblings are up, talking on the phone or wanting to be on the internet, and they're all kind of sleeping in tight quarters. And so we get a lot of calls that kids are falling asleep at school, and it's not that parents aren't trying to put them to bed. It's like older siblings are keeping them up, or they may not understand, like, you need to make everybody go to bed at like 10 o'clock, and that's just, sometimes those rules, and Patrick can speak more to that, are hard to get into place.
Yeah, I mean, the environment where we were living in a refugee camp was that, I mean, you just stay up until you can't stay up anymore, because tomorrow there's nothing to do. But now, you got them in this system where they have schedules, they have to get up at this time, they have to show up at their bus 5 to 10 minutes before the bus is there. They have all this thing which is regimented, and it is hard to adjust. And then you get yourself in that kind of situation. Another thing to consider when it comes to health challenges is the stigma on mental health. Yes, there is still a very, very big stigma in mental health in Eastern Congo, in many parts of Africa, where some people think that being mentally challenged or having some kind of mental condition has to do with witchcraft, or you are unfit for society, and people will hide it as much as they can. Even if it's a behavioral issue related to alcohol abuse, they will hide it as much as they can. Even when it comes to situations such as PTSD or a condition that is deriving from rape, they will not disclose it. Actually, there's a very, very sad thing that is happening in Eastern Congo, where when a sister or a mother is raped, they consider as spoiled goods, and they will leave you. So those things are also there coming in. So for you guys, you're acting like teachers and counselors at the same time. If you see something, you can call us, and then we can see how to address it. Because if you just tell a parent that, your child in counseling, and they begin to wonder, okay, what is this? Is it as with witchcraft or what? We have recently one of our clients who's saying that he will probably quit school because his medication has some kind of witchcraft in it. So we have that as well. And of course, the stigma. Educational challenge as well. Now, the thing is here is that mainly with the parents, because as you know, the level of education of the parents facilitate integration. And then the better the parents are fit, the better the children will do. So we are really starting at a very low level and then pushing up, grade to go really high. But this is what we have to work with. And some of our students will need support for a little longer. Some folks will think that, as soon as you're 18, just go get a job. This education is not really important for you. But some will really push for their kids to go to school. So we have both tendency, and we try to work with that too. Acquiring English is another thing. And this is a very tricky balance for us to strike, because they need, especially if it's a family with two parents, we need to find them employment. But then when they find employment, they develop what we call functional English, which is not actually English. I just know to get my command. I know to go clean the table. I understand those English of work, and that's it. Now, that functional English for job doesn't help you to understand how to solve a problem or a homework, because you don't know that. You've never encountered that. And this is why it's really hard for them to support their children. And now we do try to, provide volunteer to go help with that. And we also encourage our clients to continue to learn English. But the thing is, once they are on their own, once they begin to work, they have to show that will to go to a library, to go to a neighborhood location to learn English. And this is why sometimes people will be here for 20 years, but they have never picked up their English. Question? There are also some cultural challenges that you will see, we see in our clients. There's this different understanding of domestic violence. For some people, it's okay to be physically aggressive. It shows you care. It shows your manhood. It shows respect and all that. And also, you are not supposed to disclose that to other people. It's enclosed in the bubble of the community. It's really dangerous. That's why if you begin to see something suspicious, let's try to address it. Because many a time, one day when our client showed up with a black eye, and we thought that it was a sign of domestic violence. But she went all the way making the case that she fell. The usual story you hear. So in our communities, it's a little bit hidden. And we will try our best to try to see if we can salvage. Now, if that is happening in the house, just imagine how the kids will be behaving. Dad and mom are fighting, and they have to spend the night hearing them shouting and challenging each other or beating one another. And then in the morning, I'm going to come to school. How am I going to act? It's going to affect the way they perform at school. The other part is also the use of corporal punishment. Some people still believe in that. So we're working in both ways. You look at the situation of the child, and then if the parents are doing that, we will have to address it. It's another cultural element that is hard to work with. The idea of justice and the structure of peace and all those kind of things is also different. One of our clients, they were having issue. We were supposed to go to court. And the interpreter was from the ethnic group was saying, let's just go fix this at home. Yeah, because that's how they think. They think that we can contain this problem and fix it here. Now, we know that it's not possible because it can lead to far more horrible situation. This is why when you begin to suspect something, it's really good to investigate, contact Adrienne, or even in your own group, trying to see if this is a pattern so that you can begin to catch problem and try to solve before it gets worse. Question? Now, this is only for us, you might benefit from that to know. Some of our clients come here with a good number of experience, and many of the time, those who come with those experiences have the ability to adjust quickly, and this may explain why you see some difference among some of your students, because those who come here with some experience of employment, they have some kind of structure outside of the house, or language skills, or employment skills, they will adapt more quickly than those who do not. So those are the things that we have to keep in mind as well, in terms of training and other issues. Any questions?
Can I talk about time?
Time. Oh, yeah. Time. Yes. So the idea of time is also another challenge, which is a cultural thing. It is not because they do not respect you, not they don't care about you. It's simply because the idea of time is not linear, it's circular in our mind. Opportunity in life are considered as boomerangs. If you miss one, it's going to come back at you. And family is very, very important. This makes it that this elastic notion of time make them get late at work. For instance, if I was walking to work and I meet my uncle, who's really important, I'm sorry, more than you, my boss. And then my uncle is asking me all about his issues about my family or about my farm, if I own any, or my job, actually. And then I'm going to spend my 20 minutes there having this conversation. Because time in my mind, it's depend on the relationships that I have. Now, once I'm done with that relative of mine, I get to work, and my boss will ask me, why are you late? And I will be like, oh, I met with Uncle Joe. And then the boss will be like, oh, by the way, how is Uncle Joe doing? How is his back pain? So that's what life is. And then we'll go over Uncle Joe. We'll talk about Uncle Joe, and then at one point the manager will be like, okay, go work now. So that's what it is. So even at work, they understand that Uncle Joe is important. Or if they don't know Uncle Joe, they'll ask, who is Uncle Joe again? Maybe there's some kind of connection there. So that is the kind of thing that is in mind. But, I mean, here they're too late, they've left, they'll miss their job, they'll be fired.
And no one will ask about Uncle Joe. That's really sad.
Well,
It's hard.
and you all see it on the school level, like kids who are missing immunization certificates.
Yeah.
They have the appointment, they know to go. They'll miss 4 or 5 of their initial medical
Yeah.
appointments because of similar things, right? Because family comes above everything else.
And
That's a cultural, it's like a cultural pillar for them.
yeah,
So.
it is just like the story of the parent who was asking if they can move egg clips, right? So that so they think that we can move the immunization as far as it's possible, but we'll still get to immunization at one point because it's going to come back, right?
But there's probably culture shock if you go somewhere and no one's asking about your family and people don't understand and, why are they so rigid? Why are Americans doing this?
Yes.
I have some questions about Swahili and Kinyarwanda and how similar they are, and can we use a Swahili interpreter? No, they're totally different.
There are two, okay, they will be sound just similar when we come to linguistic classification because they're all Bantu languages, but they are not intelligible. It's not going to work for a Swahili speaker who only speaks Swahili to understand Kinyarwanda.
Okay.
It's not. But Kirundi, Kinyabwisha, I almost forgot to write
We'll
that.
make a cheat sheet.
Yeah, we'll make one. Kirundi, Kinyabwisha, Kinyamulenge, and Kinyarwanda are completely intelligible. So people would say those 4 languages are different just because of political reasons. Kirundi is spoken by people who come from Burundi. Kinyarwanda by people who come from Rwanda. Now, Kinyabwisha and Kinyamulenge spoken by Congolese of Rwandan ancestry. They speak Kinyarwanda. But if you put those 4 together, they're like, somebody from Australia, some British guy, and an American having coffee. They will spell things differently, or they will call a trunk a boot, or a lift an elevator, but they will understand each other. Yeah. Any question?
And another question. We just had this happen yesterday where a classroom teacher has a kindergartner who's experiencing everything you described, being physical with the other students, and they'll be watching a movie and he just gets up and stands, right? No sense of personal space, all those things. Should the classroom teacher go through Levon and our language services, or if we know they're a refugee family through KRM, can the classroom teacher contact KRM? We want as quick as possible because we know it's going to take a while. And the classroom teacher, she understands. She's, in this case, she really is very sympathetic, but it's, she wants to try to get this addressed as soon as possible. So I just don't know, do we go to the ESL office and bog them down, or can we go directly to you guys?
That's a very good question. So for something like that, yeah, please feel free to reach out to us if you know that they're KRM, and if they're not, we have a great relationship with Catholic Charities, and we'll say, please call Alex, Davidson, Keller. The thing that gets challenging is we have a lot of, all these kids that have been resettled, like we're the primary emergency contact for all of them, and so we sometimes get 30 calls a day.
Yeah.
It's really, and depending on the severity of things, if it's something pretty simple, but also it's good for us to know so we can address it, because sometimes there's this deeper family issue that the family's been here for a year. We may not even know that it's going on, because when they first arrived, like Patrick was talking about, everything was good, family put on a great face, but things are kind of falling apart with them. So it's really good for us to know, but when it comes to things like parent-teacher conferences, like you really should get language support from Levon, and we do try to bring families when we can. It just gets really tricky. I mean, and I think Megan and Ash are pretty good. They may say, we're just really overwhelmed today, and we can't, but we'll do our best to help, because we have Patrick and then also Napoleon on staff who have a lot of incredible language skills that we utilize all the time, and then we have a lot of interpreters too. But
So it's okay for the classroom teacher to call, and then is there a limit to the time, like if it's been a year?
No, and this is a misnomer. Like, we give clients the most services, and Patrick can speak more to this even than I can, during their first 8 months to the year, but we serve clients. I mean, like, we do get funding to serve some clients up to 5 years, but family and youth services, I mean, I have students who've been here for 8 years. They get their family's in a horrible car accident, and then we jump right back in. It's just for the newer clients, they need the most support, so we do give them the most time. We just have have to kind of weigh that out.
So let me follow up with a technical question too. Ashley just brought it up. What do we, from a JCPS policy standpoint, do we have to have Megan or Ash listed as a contact to be able to contact them on behalf of the family?
That's a JCPS question. As far as we're concerned, when families arrive at KRM, when they do their initial intake appointment, they sign off on giving permission for us to communicate with
Okay.
JCPS, with DCBS, et cetera, or otherwise we couldn't do the work that we do.
Okay.
And we haven't had anybody that says no.
Right.
I mean,
Right.
they all need support and help.
I was thinking that might be a classroom teacher's question, like, well, can I actually reach out, call her?
Right, and I don't want to.
Yeah, I was just thinking about, because I know at Wagner, the first few years I was there, I think Hillary, one would email and call me and ask about students, but she was not on their Infinite campus, so they were telling me the
She worked
office.
with me. Yeah,
So,
she was the
but,
assistant youth services
and so it was
coordinator.
Adrienne, so they're like, you can talk to Adrienne, but you cannot talk to Hillary, like, because,
It gets really tricky because Megan is probably the emergency contact for 1,500 children or something crazy like that. And she can't literally take care of that many kids, so that is, I don't know, that's something we can talk about.
yeah.
I will say too, every child that we register for school, we also have families sign off on that community learning place. What is it? It's like a permission form for us to talk to the schools, but it's really funny, like some schools, they won't want to talk to us, they call us for questions and they want answers from us, but then when we try to ask a question, they won't give us a response even after we send that in. It's just, it really depends on the school. And high schools are much more difficult, they don't want to talk to us, but if they have a problem, they'll call us immediately and want us to talk to them. So it's tricky.
I feel like I'm asking a question. What about bus behavior? That was a big issue, in particular at one of my elementary schools, where, they don't sit still, they're getting out of their seats, they're fighting, they're throwing things, they're, opening the windows.
All that will have to, we will have to address that. People don't wear seatbelt in Congo if they even have a chance to get into a car. So for them, it's a very, very new experience. And then if it's happening, we will have to address it. We have to do it. And coming back to a few other questions when it comes to culture, we all will start experiencing it now. Sometimes the Congolese will try to proselytize you. They'll try to bring you to Jesus so that you can be saved. Because there are some taboo conversation, but some conversation goes really too much personal.
And like the sexual orientation.
Yeah, sexual orientation, it's unheard of for them to see somebody who's a transgender or somebody who's a homosexual or lesbian. We're actually dealing with one of our clients who got to that point where he was asking uncomfortable questions to the point of being like a sexual harassment. So if that happens, we will have to see how we can address that. So it's there are those cultural elements that we need to begin to look at and then address it. Yeah.
I will say too, though, with the bus, like part of the problem too is like Patrick was saying, they've never been on a bus or in a vehicle, but also too, like it's such a community culture, like they're always touching each other anyways, especially that we see that with our boys and kind of fighting a little bit with each other to prove their manhood. So all that kind of gets mixed in too.
Right,
And the family may not even know how to address it sometimes. Like we'll talk to the families and they're like, well, what do you what do we do? So it has to be on the school level and the home level.
Yes, I work with a school that has a large number of recent Congolese refugees in it. And they worry a lot about trauma and just how to address behaviors, especially with little kids that are really problematic or unsafe. They don't want to treat them in a way that will make them more afraid, but yet they're not sure how to address the behaviors when they can't really speak their primary language to them. So I'm just wondering, what kind of thoughts do you have? I know you don't have a solution, but what kind of thoughts do you have about that?
I'll say one thing that has worked for some kids, and this is probably more of an Eli question, but we've had some kids in really precarious situations like that where we did get one of the BAIs to go over for like a couple of half days, like a BAI, and they could just kind of sit with them and walk with them through the lunch line. You know what I mean? Sit with them in the classroom and just kind of model behaviors. communicating with them in a language they could understand, and that helped tremendously. I know we can't do that with every single child, but
Right.
that has been something in the past that's been helpful.
We have also attended a few more home visits with the parent and the child to try to have a conversation to try to see how it's going to happen. Because, I mean, some of the behavior that you see there is what you see at home, where things are not in order. You know, clothes are all over the place, and people sometimes just fighting. We've had to go to home visit on Sundays, and the house is just a mess. So if that is how the house is, then they will replicate a few of that into the school setting.
But we do welcome to school orientations with families when they first arrive. We do a parenting roles workshop where we talk through a lot of those things. But I mean that's like talking and conversation, but then like action is harder. And a lot of those kids we will put with tutor mentors, like Patrick was talking about, and that can help some too because they're in the home every week. But it really has to be like school and home, and like that's when parent-teacher conferences can be really helpful too. I don't know. It's hard.
Yeah, it really is. They want to do the right thing, but it's an adjustment for everybody. It's an adjustment for the kids, certainly, but it's also an adjustment for teachers who've never met the kids before. And, you know, behavior coaches and other people, the counselor in the school, the Family Resource Center, they all want to help. It's just knowing how to help, what to do. And a lot of times it's the littlest ones, the littlest kids that are just, they're all over. I mean, they're running, they're trying to run away, they're kicking, hitting, all these things that, you know, we talk to them and try to show them. They learn no really fast. No, don't do that. But just trying to, you know, it takes so long, and just trying to figure out how to best support them.
Something that we've talked about too is the fact that a lot of them are coming from refugee camp situations where, like, again, there was no structure, but down to the point where, like, the whole community took care of your child.
Yes.
The kids just kind of, you know, they might go to, if there was a school, they might go to school, but it's an open air school.
Mhm.
So if you're not there, I mean, there's 100 other kids that are there, you know, so
Mhm.
some kids have a lot of autonomy running around the neighborhood and the community, and so I think when they get in schools, that's a big adjustment. Like, you can't just leave your classroom, you know, you
Right.
can't walk out the front door, you can't,
Mhm.
but it's just because it's a whole new world for them.
I mean, they will leave a child who's 3, wander about by themselves for hours, and then everybody in the neighborhood knows that kids lives over there, and then in the evening somebody will just pick that kid and then bring them home.
Because everybody's watching out for them.
Yeah.
Right.
It's just a very different cultural model that we have here.
So I had a quick question. Is there an organized Congolese sort of community group? So I know, for example, the Bhutanese kind of have some regular meetings and things. Do we see them here? Or
We haven't seen them as coming together as a whole, but there are churches and other small groups.
Because there's so many different ethnic groups.
There are so many other
Okay.
ethnic groups, different, you know, beliefs and stuff like that, but there are churches.
So they're
Yeah,
mostly connected to the faith.
to some faith-based kind of organization. Yeah, that's how they do it.
Who are also learning themselves, like the guy who had the court trial, and the leader
Yeah.
of that community who was
He's-
over that
he's not-
organization showed up at court and said, the way we do it is we deal with this ourselves with the elders, so please just release him to us. And the judge was like, what are you talking about? I mean, it was like, so it's just a learning curve for everybody.
It is a learning curve.
Are there tensions too between Rwandans and Congolese people? I've heard that from some, and
Oh,
it
yes.
seems like between kids, even little kids in elementary school,
Yes.
that can be a big problem. Can you tell us a little bit about
Yeah,
that?
there are tensions between Rwandan and other Congolese. And on top of all other conflicts or tension between Congolese of different ethnic groups. This is mainly due to the conflicts in Eastern Congo. At one point, Rwanda invaded, with the help of Uganda, invaded the Congo. So far, over about 7 million Congolese have been killed as a result of this. And then there are some Congolese who just hate Rwandans because of that. And it makes it really hard. And sometimes the conversation that parents are having filters down to the kids because
Yeah.
they're listening.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's why there's that kind of tension.
Okay.
Patrick, You obviously have successfully settled into the United States, and I'm sure there's other families that are successful. What is it that makes a family successful in their resettlement process that we could encourage?
Oof. I mean, education will be something. If somebody, many a time if they come in with some prerequisites, they have had some educational experience, that assists a lot. But it's not a given, because some will come with that educational background and they are just heavy in alcohol, or they have some kind of mental situation and things collapse. I think what assisted other like me was a very good long-term mentor organization assisted. I have had a mentor for over 14 years. Yeah, so that is what, to me, that was the key, because I was willing to learn, and Kathy was willing to teach me. And yeah, she, even today, whenever I write a paper, I send it to her, she trashes it. She uses the red pen. She's like, Patrick, you're still killing the preposition. I'm like, it's okay. So to me, that is the key. Because what we do not want, this is in my mind just thinking, we do not want immigrants to live into a bubble of their own. Because if things go wrong, it explodes like in Belgium, because integration did not happen. And that's a problem. Now, a family that has a very good long-term relationship with another family or another friend, usually they'll be okay if they're willing to learn. Yeah.
I'll say too that, and this is more for Patrick, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but something that I've seen with some of our families who might have lower education, like come with lower education, is if there are American neighbors who reach out to them, if there's like teachers who get very involved with the family and befriend them, like that befriending process can really help. Not befriending and not enabling, but like that befriending process can make all the difference, because then they don't feel like they have to just be like, inwardly looking. They can, and they really do want to have friends and community beyond their ethnic community.
I mean, we have, as you know, we have kids who are now going to college, but their parents never learned English. Because there was a mentor who intervened at a very good time, and it was a mentor and mentee relationship, where I'm not giving you money, but I'm teaching you things. I'm showing you how to go to the library, how to develop this habit of reading, and then I can have you prep your college applications, and then it keeps going on. That's, to me, it was really successful. Yeah, another part that we really have to work with is financial education for the parents. So that is a piece that even ourselves we're trying to really grapple with now.
I had a simple question about names.
Okay.
So when you're looking at a family, often everybody has a different last name.
Yeah.
Can you just explain how last names work?
Okay. There are two reasons as to that. One reason is that some of those families may not be a biological family. It may be that my uncle died or my cousin died, and I just took all their kids, put them with me, and I call them my kids because I can't say that this is my nephew. It's like an insult. You can say this is my cousin. It's like an insult. In Swahili, the word for brother is the same word for cousin, ndugu. So this is my relative, period. It could be that, and they will probably never tell you that this is my sister's child. She passed away, and I adopted her or him. They will never tell you that. The other part is that it could be a biological family, but there's a tradition where you have to name somebody after a relative. Because suppose you are my aunt and I was really fond of you. And then I say when I'm going to have my son, I'm going to name him after you or her after you. And that is their name. If a Congolese is pregnant and you tell her, name your son after me, be careful because it might just happen.
Like Baby Mary.
Like Baby Mary. We can tell the story.
We have, it's really, oh my gosh, it's a really incredible story. But this, we had a young woman, and she was pregnant with a baby, and she got very close with her caseworker. her Mary. And so she named the baby Mary. So we've got Marion and baby Marion.
Oh my gosh.
And she's beautiful, beautiful little baby, teeny weeny bit.
So you've got those two,
Yeah.
kind of explanation. It's just like that.
But she had joked with her, like very jokingly, like, "Oh, don't you think Mary is a beautiful name?" Like totally joking. And she was, and she's like, "This is baby Mary."
Yeah.
Oh.
Is there any gender, in terms of children, like are the boys looked at in a different light than girls?
Yes, okay. That is something that is really, really important because they assume that girls are not smart, boys are smart. That is the assumption. So if you are to send one person to school, no matter if that girl is doing calculus at age 2, she's not going to go to school. Yeah, she's not, because she's a girl. She's expected to be married and have babies and learn to cook, and that's it. Yeah, at least here, it's hard for them to even make the case, but because everybody has to go to school. Yes, there is that thing that is really huge in Congo, unfortunately. And this is why, it's really good for them as they see you teaching. They know that the reality is different. My teacher can be male or female. It's possible. And they see that kind of role model, it pushes them far. But otherwise, no. Yeah, they won't. They'll stay home because of trying to find the next husband who's coming.
We have a lot of girls at Iroquois that want to be teachers.
That's good.
Yeah.
Sometimes parents may begin to ask you personal questions. It could be just it's a cultural thing. Sometimes they'll ask you, "Oh, you are 25. Why aren't you married?" Because just sometimes it's
Children.
yeah. They'll ask you, "Why don't you have children?" "Oh, I've got 2. Why don't you have 3 children?" So they may get to that route, I mean, if you feel uncomfortable, you can just stop them here or there. If they begin to insist, then that is something else. But sometimes it's just a cultural thing. Because somebody is expected to be married in the 20s and then have maybe half a football team. And then the French soccer, because it's 11, have 7 kids at age 35. Yes. So, and children are blessings. So you got 2, you are not blessed enough. So,
Do you want to talk about how they view teachers?
well, teachers occupy a big place in the Congo. Even me, the best title I can ever have is Mwalimu. Mwalimu means teacher in Kiswahili. So traditionally, teachers have been very, very important because it used to be this: if you do something wrong at school, the teacher punishes you, and you go home, and then don't even tell your parents. You know why? If you say that, they'll punish you again because you did something wrong. So you guys are occupying a very, very important place in those kids' life. Yeah, and then that's what I have to say. It's my grandmother was a teacher, elementary school teacher. And that's why I've always wanted to be a teacher. Maybe someday I will be. Yeah, it's a very honorific title. Yeah.
This is kind of a reach, and this is asking you to generalize, I know, but one of the things we want to do is find books and materials that really interest our students, the things that they want to read about and learn about. And I know a lot of our kids like soccer, but beyond soccer, what is something that would really interest kids? And I know that's a reach, and I'm putting you on the spot, but topics that you see kids are really interested in and passionate about.
Well, as in terms of general, it's maybe a little hard to say.
Yeah.
Some kids will be interested in design, crafting things like making clothes or stuff like that. Books about design could help them, focus their imagination. And some of them are now interested in technology, in computer science. Those books could also spark their interest. I know all the kids, as I was growing up, wanted to we built our own toys. So maybe some books about, small idea of engineering, the toy making, that could be also interesting for them.
I'll say too, like the kids in our summer program love nonfiction. They did not want anything to do with any of the fiction books that we had. They loved the picture books that were all about animals, sports.
Yeah.
Like Patrick was saying, robots are really popular. Like, they love technology, and they want to learn how to do it. So.
That would be really